Out there in one of the dungeons, an S rank to be precise, our MC, Su Ming, clears the Death Den, which is known as the most ancient dungeon and the first S rank to appear in their world. He eventually shows up looking worn out and tired after slaying the god-tier aberrant beasts. But to his surprise, he sees the warrior group staring at him like prey, demanding that he hand over the artifact he had gotten from the dungeon. Despite knowing he's the god of slaughter, they confidently tell him to get ready to die. Su learns that it was all orchestrated by Jiang Xian, his supposed friend whom they've teamed up with since they awakened. Now, Jiang plans to strip Su of his powers. Su gets mad at him and prepares for a showdown by telling Jiang and his men to come for the artifact, the Divine Ring of Defiance. They see Su power up and note that he's using the ring's power, so, as they plan to jump him, Jiang tells them to wait because the plan will soon be complete. From the sky, Ren Xiaoman approaches Su, who is surprised to see her show up. She hugs him and tells him that she heard he's being plotted against, so she came to help. Su assures her that there's no need to worry. After all, he has the divine artifact, so they are no match for him. But Su asks her the question that lingers in his mind, wondering how Jiang and the others know his whereabouts. And to his surprise, Ren stabs him in the gut before informing him that she was the one who told them. Horrified and surprised, Su asks her why she had turned against him. But Ren activates a spell, and Jiang happily yells that the plan has been completed. He tells her to activate prison formation, and immediately, Ren runs to his side while chains come out from Su's wound. On that spot, Su realizes that Ren had betrayed him long ago and partnered up with Jiang just for this moment to get the artifact. Su curses them after seeing that he was only used as a tool for their gain, and immediately, they charge at him to get rid of him and get their hands on the artifact. From nowhere, skeletons appear, and a lady named Ji Yao yells at the warriors to stop. The skeletons block the attacks while Ji Yao tells Su not to give up. Jiang sees Yao and tells her that she has a death wish because no one can save them from the number of masters among the warriors who will face them. As the opposition rains their attacks, Jiang pulls out his blade and cuts Yao. Su screams as he sees Yao fall, and just when Jiang approaches him to cut him down, Su grabs the chains while gritting his teeth in pain, and he forcefully breaks them. The others who witnessed it are stunned after seeing Su use a divine-level technique, which was only possible thanks to the artifact. Su rushes to Yao and asks her why she showed up despite the number of times he let her down. She weakly reaches for his face and tells him that if he must die, then she would die with him. Moved, Su lifts her and angrily declares to everyone watching that he vows on his title as the god of slaughter to hunt and kill every one of them if he's ever reborn. They see Su moving back to the Death Den and worriedly rush to stop him from taking the artifact with him. But Su takes out the ring and tosses it while jumping into the dungeon with Yao. Later, he regains consciousness while wondering if he's dead, but he sees he's at the academy. Not only that, but he's at the 127th awakening ceremony. There, the 18-year-olds awaken, and their future paths are decided based on the area of their awakening. Su looks around and recalls reliving such an event. He confirms everywhere is real and realizes that he has regressed to when he was 18. He sees that the people called to have their abilities checked are exactly as it had happened, meaning no deviation from the way things were. He smiles happily after learning he's been reborn, and the memory of his friend's betrayal flashes before his eyes. Suddenly, Jiang successfully awakens as the Magic Hammer Warrior. The students hail him after seeing that his innate attribute is an 8-star level. While the others glaze him and his family background, Su stares daggers at Jiang. Suddenly, Yao shows up and tells Su she's been looking for him. He stares at her surprisingly, and she wonders if she's got something on her face. Su then tells her he's congratulating her in advance. While she wonders what he meant, Su notes he's happy to see her. The announcer calls Yao next, and when she touches the heavenly steel, they all realize that she has awakened a hidden profession just like Jiang. But this time around, it's Necromancer with star level 7. Everyone is shocked that their set has 2 hidden profession awakeners, which seems like an overkill. Lastly, Su is called to touch the heavenly steel. As he walks there, his mates dismiss the possibility of him being the 3rd professional awakener just because he is an orphan. In a country known as the Blue Star, after the first set of awakeners decades ago, people began to awaken when they reached 18 by participating in an awakening ceremony. The awakened are known as the elite who have the powers to bend the rules of the nation and amass wealth, but they must face ferocious beasts, terrifying dungeons. And with all the cons that came with awakening, Su in his past life, who was an orphan that depended on reliefs and scholarships, awakened with amazing star-level innate attributes, the legendary profession, the god of slaughter. Currently, Su stands before the steel with the hopes to enlighten everyone once again about his ability. But when he touches the steel, It fluctuates so heavily that everyone wonders if it's the birth of a 9-star rank profession. But to everyone, including Su's surprise, the Ring of Defiance appears from the steel. He grabs it and sees that the artifact traveled through time to meet him. As soon as he touches the ring, a status window pops up and classifies him as the strongest beast slayer, his mythical profession, the sword god. The announcers and everyone around are surprised by the fluctuation phenomenon, and they wonder what profession Su is getting. Jiang, on the other hand, wonders why Su isn't moving. Meanwhile, Su looks at the pop-up window and wonders why his profession has changed from god of slaughter to sword god. He scans his fingerprint, and his golden talent is the sublimation of all things. He goes through the stats and realizes that his level will be higher than that of his past life. He opens his skill set and sees there's nothing there. But as he frantically tries to operate the status window, the others wonder what is taking him so long. The system eventually answers him and scans the Ring of Defiance, and after identifying it, a bright light bursts from the stage and goes straight into the air. Everyone there looks into the air and sees that Su is star level 10. Unfortunately, he is awarded the profession sword. Everyone is shocked at his level, and they wonder if they have 3 students with hidden professions. The problem is that the sword controller isn't a high-class profession, so the 10-star level seems like a high potential for a low-grade profession. When Su returns, his classmates snicker at him and note that Su will have to cultivate twice as much as others to get points matching others. They look down on him and note that the maximum he'll ever get from that profession is to act as a support in battle. Despite all their sadistic remarks, Yao happily congratulates Su and calls him amazing for his 10-star talent. She believes he won't have any problems growing stronger in his profession. Su thanks her for encouraging him and opens up to her by saying that everyone else's reaction was what he wanted. She doesn't understand what he means, but as soon as Run is called up to the stage to check her profession, all the boys start cheering for her. Yao admires Run and talks about how Run is their school beauty. Just like others, everyone anticipates her new profession. But to Yao's surprise, Su walks off and tells her he's not. What haunts Su is the fact that Run had used his talent and betrayed him without hesitation. As he walks off, he notes that he'll have his revenge. On the streets, Su sees there's no change to the environment like he remembers it, and the only exception is his new profession. Su checks his status window and sees his concealment skill, which is one of the 4 skills of his previous life available in his skill set. The status window adds his former skills to the skill catalog and shows him he's at the very first level. Su plans to hide as much as possible about himself to avoid being used like his past life. Based on the way things occurred in the past, he expects a novice dungeon challenge to show up the next day. Knowing fully well that it'll be a breeze for him, Su realizes he has to defeat a particular boss during that event, and for that, he'll need good equipment. Meanwhile, Rin stays with Jiang in a hotel suite, and she calls him mischievous for having her over right after the end of the awakening ceremony. He gets pissed upon hearing about the ceremony because Su had robbed him of everyone's attention due to his star level. Rin quickly pacifies Jiang and then tells him that Su will be of use to them in the future thanks to his high stats. She shows Jiang her phone to prove how Su used to like her, so she types a message which she plans to send to Su to get him to work with her. Su, on the other hand, arrives at the equipment store in the city, and he sees students from nearby schools checking the place out, which means that they too have completed their awakening ceremonies. Su checks around and sees a group of students talking about a Tyrant Frigid Sword, a very expensive diamond-grade weapon that can freeze monsters. As Su passes them by, he smirks as he notes that the sword is actually a fake, which is due to the occurrence in his past life. Suddenly, Jiang Lan from the Jiang conglomerate shows up and introduces herself to him as a worker who knows him. Unable to recall her face, Su tells her he doesn't know her. But that's fine because she wants him to help her sister, Jiang Yincheng, in the upcoming novice dungeon. Tolan is eyebrows, Su refuses. But she reminds him that he is poor and will readily cover for any equipment he buys. On hearing this, Su points to a frosty sky sword that's worth 1,000,000 advent coins, and Lan tells him he's making things difficult for her. She asked him if he thinks he's worth the amount, but he reminds her that she was the one who said she would grant him his request. Because of this, Su tells her that there are situations that financial power can't help, so Lan should ensure Yincheng puts in all her efforts for the dungeon test. Lan's guard nearly acts up, but she stops him and leaves with him. Everyone around is shocked that Su played such a hotshot. Su suddenly gets a message from Run, who tells him she has a change of heart towards him and would like to meet him on a rooftop. He sees that things are still progressing like they did in the past, so he accepts her invitation. After that, he goes to another segment in the store where they sell sword stones. In reality, it's very rare for the sword stones to transform into graded weapons, since most of the sword stones are scraps. The secretary tries warning Su about it, but he doesn't back off and tells her he's ready to gamble his luck since the stones are cheaper. Meanwhile, Su uses one of his skills known as the Eye of Intent to check the stones out till he lands on the surest one. The eye helps him see all the fundamental information about all matters. With that, he selects the raw material and buys it dirt cheap for 50 advent coins. Young Ding, a rich bully, and his sidekick see what Su is up to, and they make fun of him for being foolish to reject the offer from John's conglomerate and sticking to buying a scrap. To crash their ego, Su tests them by wagering 5,000 advent coins if he gets a silver weapon. They laugh at him and conclude he has some screws loose, so they accept the deal. Su immediately grabs his chance by using his Eye of Insight skill to draw out the weapon in the sword stone. To everyone's surprise, he pulls out a black iron crimson edge sword, a low-grade silver weapon that drinks monsters' blood and heals its master. Su calls it a good weapon, which is perfect for his date later that night. Young Ding realizes he's been had and watches as Su says the weapon has a lifesteal effect, which means he won't need a healer. Su then demands his money, and Young Ding reluctantly pays it to him. The receptionist checks out the sword and finds it hard to believe because it's been years since someone pulled a good sword out of the rocks. Su then meets her for a scabbard and purchases one with the 5,000 advent coins he just got. His status window immediately informs him that the scabbard will reduce the sword degradation by 50%. It asks if Su would like to open the hidden materialization function, but Su declares he's going to raise the grade. With that, Su takes his leave, and as he heads home, he checks his status window and wonders why he doesn't have any single profession skill attached to his sword god title. But on the professional talent tree, he has the sublimation of all things, a skill that can upgrade all loot, but it can only happen once. Su applies it to his weapon, and it gains the blood thirst effect, making 2 abilities. 1. The Blood Drinker, an ability that heals the owner after cutting an opponent. The second one temporarily increases the owner's stats by 5 points for 30 seconds. After reading up on them, Su opens the hidden weapon materialization and notes that preparation for the next day's dungeon raid is complete. Later that night, Su goes to the rooftop where he sees Rin waiting for him. She acts like a vixen, telling him he's late, but she freaks out when she sees him hurl his sword at her. It lands a few feet away from her, and she asks him out of fear about what's wrong. Su tells her that he has shown up for revenge, but she doesn't know what he's talking about, so she tells him she came because she took the initiative to ask him out since he liked her. But now she finds it strange that he wants to kill her. Su immediately recalls how she approached him right after the awakening ceremony in the academy ended, and for the first time he received her concern. From then on, she talked to him till he eventually asked her out, and they started dating. They were the days he treasured the most due to the times they spent together. But having realized that they were fake, Su candidly tells Rin about how he's aware of her ploy with Jiang to use him. Surprised, Rin tries to cover up, but Su doesn't let her finish, and he calls her a shameless hoe. At that point, she snaps and admits that if not for his talents, he wouldn't stand a chance to talk to her. She vows Su won't get away with insulting her, but Su doesn't care, and he even threatens her social status by saying he'll ruin her pure and innocent image if he exposes her relationship with Jiang. She gets very pissed and grabs his sword to attack him, but the sword's bloodthirsty activation activates, and it cuts her face. Rin starts screaming not only from the pain, but because her perfect face is now disfigured. Su picks up his sword and says her new look suits her, and it's time for his revenge. Annoyed, Rin vows to have Jiang kill him, but Su simply walks off and tells her that Jiang can come at him anytime. Before leaving, he tells Rin that she should consider the slash done by him, and that it represents how the concern he had for her has been cut. Meanwhile, Principal Wang gifts Su some items and money as a starter pack for the novice dungeon raid. The next day, around 6 a.m., Su chews on the marrow-strengthening pill he received from the principal and wonders if the old man pitted him because of his sword controller profession. Although it tastes bad, Su levels up and gains a passive talent to master all types of sword skills without restriction. As Su walks to the venue, he plans to show the other students what he's got in the novice dungeon. By the time Su gets to the venue, a lot of students clamor to team up with him, but he declines their request and tells them he is already on another team. Coincidentally, Yao hears him and feels down because she came very early that morning hoping to team up with him. Su mutters to her not to team up with him because he'd be worried about her getting hurt since he's going after something dangerous. While they discuss, Yanzi shows up and introduces himself as a level 9 demon hunting ranger who wants Su to team up with. Su remembers him from his previous life. But as he wonders how to turn Yin down, Yao covers for him by telling Yin that she has already teamed up with Su. She chases everyone else, and Su notes she's reliable. A few minutes before 7 o'clock, the principal addresses them via a live stream as the dungeon portal opens. He explains the rules to the student, mentioning how they get points by overcoming challenges and they are to finish within a day. As he riles them up and advises them to team up, Yao looks around, but can't find Sue, who was with her moments ago. Immediately, as the principal kickstarts the event, the students talk about how someone has already gone beforehand. Sue, on the other hand, descends into the portal, and he notes the familiar feeling since he's been there before. Back then, he moved around recklessly trying to stockpile contribution points, but this time around he plans to face the most difficult challenge, which is to slay the ultimate hidden boss. He eventually arrives inside the dungeon and notes that his spawning point is different from that of his previous, which is why the place, route, and monsters are different, for the Sue conceals his presence from an elite tree monster, even though he can deal with it, because he doesn't plan to waste time fighting foot monsters, and his priority is the hidden boss. He checks the map to the route to the hidden boss, and then notes that he has to hurry, so he has a head start in raking items. Around 7:30 a.m., Yunqing and her party spawn not too far off, and they notice the place is quiet. All of a sudden, they see a particular student being hunted down by a giant frenzied blood rat. They all split up and run, but a minute later, 3 out of the 4 of them are gnawed to death, with the highest among the team being a 6-star. Everybody still outside the portal is concerned because someone that high didn't even last long in the dungeon. The announcer then orders them to form teams as quickly as possible because the challengers inside need help. Meanwhile, Yunqing, the only survivor of her team, runs so far that she loses track of where she's at. Out of the corner of her eye, she sees an ape monster, and the creature leaps at her with killing intent. Scared to the bone, Yunqing screams for help, and behold, the monster gets slashed multiple times by Sue. While everyone else in the dungeon suffers from the monster's onslaught, Yunqing wishes she had stayed hidden, but as she sees Sue easily cut down the ape, she realizes he's very strong and assumes the ape is dead. Sue corrects her that the ape isn't dead yet, and she should be careful because he won't save her the second time. She quickly bolts to get reinforcement for him, but that's exactly what he needs, some alone time. Sue uses his eye of insight and learns that the ape isn't ordinary, but a mutated ape king, so he concludes that it's the reason the ape had survived as the ape charges at him, and Sue sees that the creature is very fast. He evades its attack, and then decides to challenge it in a speed contest. To do that, Sue uses his third skill from his previous life, which is the Divine Shadow Step. Sue attacks the ape, and as the primate tries to counter Sue's slash, but Sue appears right behind it and baits it with some. The ape turns around and leaps at Sue. But Sue sees he outclasses it in speed, and he finds it boring, so he goes for a finisher by lopping the head. As a result, the system rewards him with a linear slash scroll for successfully defeating the mutated ape king. It's a low-tier bronze skill that Sue says is perfect for the novice dungeon. Suddenly, Sue is awarded first blood drawn for being the first person to kill a monster. Moments later, everyone receives the message that a sword controller has killed a monster. A lot of people from Sue's academy assume he's the one, but some others dismiss it. After all, there are also sword controllers from other academies that are participating in the dungeon. As a result, everyone receives a healing potion. When Sue hears his achievements with his title broadcast, he notes that he must be more careful by using the concealment skill to prevent them from knowing. As Sue waltzes through the forest, he sees a pack of monster wolves and calls them the perfect specimen for his newly acquired slash skill he got from defeating the Ape King. He activates the skill known as the II slash and then draws the blade from his sheath after focusing his mind. Immediately, a flying slash attack goes straight to the wolves, and the monsters barely have time to react before they're cut down one after another, their bodies collapsing as experience points flood into Sue's system window. He continues the efficient slaughter without hesitation, steadily farming, until his accumulated experience climbs to 8,000. At exactly 9:30 a.m., Sue upgrades to level 9, and the system promptly notifies him that he has obtained the title called Legend of the Hungry Wolf. Glancing through his notifications, Sue calmly reviews his success and acknowledges the efficiency of his II skill, especially when paired with his sword's unsheathing ability, which releases the energy stored within the scabbard at the moment of draw. Curious, Sue decides to test it further. He channels the accumulated energy and releases a sharp crescent-shaped energy slash toward another group of hungry wolf monsters confronting him. However, to his surprise, a massive level 10 Wolf King suddenly emerges from the forest depths, and it effortlessly deflects the attack. Meanwhile, at 8:30 a.m., other rookies form parties and enter the novice dungeon to begin their trials. Thereafter, they encounter a mutated field mouse and engage it with everything they've got. The fight is messy and there are casualties along the way, but after a hard-fought struggle, the creature finally falls. Hyped, the rookies cheer as they receive experience points and celebrate the defeat of a special monster. Riding the high of their victory, they decide they can't afford to fall behind the player who drew first blood and sent them potions earlier. However, they receive another message from the system informing them about another player getting first blood on a leader monster. Surprisingly, the player is a level 9 fisherman who obtains the Leader of Leaders title with that achievement. Unease spreads through the group, and they wonder if the profession they once dismissed might actually be terrifyingly strong. 10 minutes earlier, Su steadily chips away at the Wolf King's HP, his movements precise and controlled. From his perspective, the beast is nothing extraordinary. With one final strike, he brings it down and calmly remarks that it's no match for a reincarnate like him. Following that, the system congratulates Su for defeating the silver-backed Wolf King and lists out his rewards. He gains 500 experience points, upgrades to level 10, and sees the proficiency of several skills increase. Loot from the fallen leader also appears in his meanwhile. The other rookies finally overcome their own opponents, and Ding realizes just how much effort it takes to deal with a simple pack of hungry wolves. Fortunately, the dungeon title reward, which is an attack boost scroll, arrived in the nick of time to aid them during the battle. Seeing that a level 9 fisherman easily dealt with such an ordeal, Ding fumes and mutters that the dungeon must be mocking them. Not long after, Ding throws away his crappy novice machete because of its low damage. He grumbles about the money he lost, knowing he could have purchased a far better weapon. His lackey tries to praise Su's luck, but the sore loser snaps at him to keep quiet, venting his frustration over having to bear the loss alone. He complains about his slow progress and blames the dead weights in his party. Furious, he hopes to meet Su in the dungeon so he can vent his anger by sending Su to the afterlife. The lackey tries to soothe his anger, and they soon return to grinding experience points. Elsewhere, Su triggers his primary profession change task upon reaching level 10. The system informs him that the task will be randomly selected based on his current circumstances. Rather than feeling anxious, Su feels grateful because in his previous life, he had already left the novice dungeon before he reached level 10, causing his task to scale to an E-rank dungeon he was challenging at that time. However, he still couldn't complete the task and had to grind up to level 15 before going back to complete it. This reduced the benefit of the rewards he got, but he decided to change the outcome in this new life. Soon after, the system assigns him a task, which is to defeat the Guardian of the Red Rock Cave, a powerful elite monster. Seeing the location, Su relaxes because it's still within the novice dungeon, and the task feels manageable. With a confident grin, he invests his accumulated points into agility. When the agility attribute breaks past 100, the system congratulates him again and grants him a sword god profession skill called Sword Martial Master. It is a passive low-grade platinum skill that allows him to equip any sword-type weapon regardless of level requirements. Meanwhile, inside the meeting room of First Academy in Xianjing City, a board member reports to Principal Wang about the compiled data from the rookie dungeon, specifically highlighting the top talent standing out. Principal Wang scans through the list before asking if any statistics are missing since Su's name is nowhere to be found. The board member calmly reassures him that nothing is missing and that the information reflects all the data returned from the dungeon without exception. She then draws his attention to the rookie who drew first blood in the dungeon. Based on the timing and anonymity, she suggests that the person in question is most likely Su. Principal Wang pauses at that revelation to think about Su's supposed underwhelming performance and questions his judgment since he gave the lad a novice gift pack, but he's still not in the top 500. Before he can think further, the doors swing open and Xianjing City's vice mayor, and Ramling, barges into the meeting room. She confronts Principal Wang directly, demanding an explanation. Apparently, he had previously informed her of Su's 10-star awakening. Yet the rookie dungeon data her secretary provided shows no trace of him. From her perspective, the situation makes little to no sense. Principal Wang attempts to calm her down and advises her to reduce her expectations because even if Su is a 10-star talent, people with this profession usually have slightly weak early game combat power. However, Ramling keeps rambling and accuses Principal Wang of lying to her just to get more Heavenly Tower Council qualification tokens that year. Unrelenting, she goes on to point out Yin Zhe, a 9-star talent who's currently second on the rookie list, as the best candidate to compete with the neighboring city's genius, Li Chengwang. She also suggests the Jiang family's legitimate son, Jiang Tong, as another potential since he has 8-star talent and a cool hidden profession. After analyzing these potentials, she decides to give Principal Wang 2 qualification tokens, even though every school should get a minimum of 3. She claims it's because the academy has been flopping for the past 2 years, and then threatens to give him no slot in the coming year if they underperform this time. She casually brushes off the what-ifs he's talking about and leaves to attend to her busy schedule. Shortly after, Principal Wang looks at the tokens, disappointed because he couldn't secure an extra slot with Su's talent, but instead got one less. He then puts his hopes on Su and looks forward to a better result. Meanwhile, outside the Red Rock Cave, Su studies the map and confirms that he has reached the task's location. Fortunately, his journey was uneventful, with no troublesome monsters along the however. He never explored this cave in his previous life, leaving him uncertain about what lurks inside. Exercising caution, he steps in carefully only for a level 6 gold-digging goblin to appear without warning. Reacting instantly, Su turns it into minced meat with swift precision before it alerts the whole cave. Unfortunately for him, the system informs him about the triggered goblin cave awareness. To his surprise, a horde of goblins suddenly spawns, and he realizes that the first-class change task isn't some easy-peasy one. Just then, the system tells him that all the goblins in the cave will launch fierce attacks at him. Presumably, the triggered goblin mode is a self-indulgent lifestyle that goes against every social norm. Without hesitation, Su begins mowing through the goblins, but the sheer number of enemies is overwhelming. Concern creeps in as he notices his weapon's durability suddenly. A massive goblin attempts to ambush him from behind, but Su narrowly evades, only to face coordinated arrow volleys from smaller goblins. Several arrows graze him despite his blocks, confirming that these monsters are far more intelligent than expected. The onslaught continues, steadily chipping away at his HP. Su calculates his remaining mana and realizes that at this early stage, it won't sustain prolonged combat. Facing a swarm supported by an elite goblin, he abandons brute force. Choosing flexibility over pride, Su retreats into the shadows, preparing to lure his enemies into traps of his own making. Still within the depths of Red Rock Cave, the unfortunate goblin stumbles straight into Su's ambush, and he cuts them down one after another with clean, decisive strikes. With that, Su calmly assesses the situation and concludes that as long as he controls the battlefield and maintains positional superiority, he can fully unleash the potential of his Ieto/skill. Soon after, he clears out every remaining small goblin, leaving only the elite variant standing. Meanwhile, outside the cave, several rookie players linger near the entrance, hesitant to venture inside because of its difficulty. Among them are the two unlucky individuals who lost a sword bet to Su days earlier, Ding and his lackey. They argue quietly about whether Su or anyone among their peers would truly challenge a cave known for spawning monsters at level 7 and above. Just as the debate heats up, they notice someone exiting the cave, and it happens to be their nemesis, Su. Now at level 11, Su casually aura farms as he checks the system notifications detailing his rewards, while his presence exudes confidence. However, he is interrupted by Ding, who lunges from behind aiming for a decisive. Su reacts instantly, sidestepping with ease as the attack misses entirely. Fueled by resentment, Ding orders his lackeys to surround Su and prevent any unfortunately for them. Su has no intention of running. As Ding rants about settling old scores, he realizes that Su has already forgotten the incident that was a big deal to him. Enraged by Su's laid-backness, he orders his henchmen to eliminate Su on the spot. As the group charges forward, Su decides it is the perfect moment to test a newly acquired skill. With a thought, he summons his sword and activates the sword control skill, manipulating the blade through telekinesis. The sword darts through the air, grazing and forcing back his opponents with precise control. The attackers freeze in disbelief because sword control is a technique typically reserved for mid-stage sword controllers, far beyond what a rookie should wield. Unknown to them, Su obtained the skill as a drop from the elite goblin and elevated it from silver to gold tier with his talent. Su quickly realizes just how well the skill synchronizes with him and briefly considers how fast word of this ability will spread among the rookies. Thereafter, he checks the rewards from clearing the cave and discovers a hidden location map. The map outlines a path connecting the first-class change to the final stage, sparking his curiosity. As he scans the map, he is surprised to find a new quest tied to Red Rock Cave, referencing goblin commerce and their lifestyle. Elsewhere, at exactly 11:30 a.m., a flamboyant all-girls rookie team efficiently clears out a group of low-level monsters. They hype and celebrate their teamwork enthusiastically, praising their coordination. One member thanks Fun Fancy, a 7-star awakened talent, for carrying them through the encounter. While the others excitedly inspect the loot, Fancy looks back to check on the other girls on the team and soon realizes that someone is missing. She looks around trying to understand the situation, but then discovers a shocking clue. While Fancy and the rest of the girls scout for goods, they suddenly notice the swift disappearance of one of their teammates. So they begin to worry. Goblins generally reside in dark and damp places like caves and underground tunnels to avoid sunlight. As a result, they're able to avoid natural predators and are also conducive to ambushes and plundering activities. Since they live in groups, each group is usually led by a chieftain or an elder who serves as a leader in various capacities, including warrior, craftsman, hunter, and priest as appointed by the leader. To maintain the growth of the group, goblins possess a high birth rate and rapid reproductive capabilities. After shortly learning about goblins and the fact that they sometimes try to breed with human females, Su arrives at the coordinate position of the cave. To his surprise, the cave doesn't seem to be anywhere in sight, so he wonders if he got the coordinates wrong. Scanning the area with his eye of insight, he then understands that the red cave is in an underground cavern whose entrance is hidden by thick smoke. When Su enters the cavern, he gets to an area where he spots some goblins. Realizing that the entire colony is probably in the cave, he understands that killing one of them would alert he then hides himself as he observes the area for the treasure. While observing, he finds the body of a female student who has probably been violated to death by the goblins. He then confirms what he learned about the creatures to be true. Shortly after, he sees a student named Jiang Yuncheng, who must have also fallen into the goblin smoke trap. Rather than the other student, Yunqing is still conscious and trying to ward off the horde of goblins trying to approach her. Su then sees it as a perfect opportunity to let her stall the goblins away, while he secretly steals the treasure. While he turns to leave, he suddenly hears her yell that her sister is the vice director of the Jianghan conglomerate, and that she will reward anyone who can save her. Realizing that Yunqing is the sister of the vice director, he spoke to him about it, and Su decides to intervene. While the goblins charge at Yunqing to attack, Su suddenly tosses his weapon into their midst. He then uses his sword control technique to unsheath it, creating an immensely strong light called Iato Slash. Since the goblins are natural enemies of light, they immediately flee from the scene. Given that Su didn't kill any of the goblins, none of the other goblins in the cave get alerted. Yunqing thanks Su for saving her, but he simply replies that he just happened to be passing by. She also tries to bring up matters about the reward for saving her, but Su tells her to focus on making it out of the cave alive first. While he tries to leave, she begs him not to leave her behind, but Su sternly replies that she'd only slow him down. He then suddenly discovers that the treasure is buried under where they're standing. After digging it out, he decides to use his sublimation talent to improve the quality of the chest, transforming it from a silver tier chest into a low-grade gold tier lottery chest. Just like the name implies, a lottery chest can randomly draw high-level items, skill books, or equipment with a high opening the treasure chest. Su is given a Shadow Flow set and a Platinum Grade Soul Healer skill scroll, which are both far from what he expected. Seeing that he was only rewarded a Shadow Flow set and a Soul Healer skill scroll, Su gets disappointed as he had worked extra hard expecting a more bountiful reward. The Shadow Flow set seems quite useful to him, but the Soul Healer skill scroll stands out weirdly as it doesn't match his profession at all. Yunqing remarks that it probably appeared because of her. She then introduces herself as a 7-star Soul Healer, taking Su completely by surprise. Su then immediately receives a notification from the system stating that Yunqing has now joined his team. Meanwhile, in a different location in the dungeon, Yao randomly stumbles on the dead bodies of her peers. Before she can react, Li, the student responsible, sees her and makes her his next target, forcing her on edge. After a while, she gains some distance from him, so she conceals herself and tries to sneak away secretly. She then accidentally makes a loud noise, alerting Li and causing him to charge at her with a heavy attack. Thanks to her quick reaction time, she's able to slightly evade the attack and gain some distance again. Surprised at her swift moves, Li mentions that he never expected a girl like her to hold out against him for so long, remarking that the Xianjing Academy might not really be entirely trash. Yao asks why he's killing them when, based on his school uniform, he clearly goes to a school in the neighboring city. Li then responds that his level 10 first-class change task happened to assign him to kill 50 players. According to him, since it'd be strange for him to suddenly start killing people around him, he decided to visit their weak school to do justice. He also states that their academy is to blame for being the one with the record of having the most trash students in several cities. Suddenly, he charges at her, but Yao tries to block him off with her necromancy skeletons, which he easily destroys. He then calls her weak as he chases her with a fatal attack. Just before the attack hits her, someone blocks it off to their surprise. Yanzei then reveals himself with his teammates and promises to protect her. Meanwhile, not too far from the Red Cave, Su submits treasure fragments to the system and gets a notification about completing the primary class change task. He then gets promoted to first class as his swordsmanship power, speed, and proficiency increase in double Yunqing, who uses the Soul Healer skill scroll, also unlocks some advanced skills that make Su raise an eyebrow. He then concludes that she must have an infinite amount of luck. Thinking about the great things he could accomplish with that amount of luck on his side, he reconsiders his options and agrees to complete the dungeon with her. Hearing this, Qing gets so excited as she begins to yap about how her sister had hired a group of thugs to help her achieve the same goal, but ended up being ineffective. Although Su naturally doesn't like the matchup, he does it solely for her skill. After becoming teammates with Qing, Su receives a message from Yao, so he decides to check it out. Meanwhile, back at the Battle Avenue, Li, Yin, and Yao are both surprised to see that he has not been fighting with his full power the whole time. In a matter of seconds, he wipes out Yan's entire team without breaking a sweat. He also easily blocks off Yan's powerful long-range attacks, making him seem useless. Based on the research Yan had done beforehand, he can identify Li as a genius, awakened 10-star talent with a blade maniac profession. After defeating all his men, Li approaches them slowly, ranting that he has only been able to kill 35 people and that he's still far from his goal. While he approaches, Yin, who is a ranged professional, remarks that he can only barely stand the chance if he manages to gain some distance. But that might be troublesome at the moment. Yao also remarks that her mana has bottomed out and that she can no longer use her necromancy. They then both realize that they're cooked. Seeing that they have nowhere to run, Li charges at Yin to take care of him first. But to his surprise, he gets interrupted by Yao, who blocks him off. She instructs Yin to run as far as he can while she tries to hold him off, but Li gets pissed by the fact. He attempts to deliver a fatal blow, but gets interrupted by a strange Su has come to their rescue. Yao had texted him earlier to warn him of the danger in her area, but he had decided to come instead. Seeing her, Su gets flashbacks to how she protected him in his past life as well, which led to her death. This time around, he promises to protect her. Su then uses his sword control skill to retrieve his sword, which he uses to clash with Li. Seeing him, Li identifies him as the level 10 sword controller he heard about, but he doesn't expect him to have the upper hand as he's only a controller. Watching from a distance, Yin remarks about how amazing Su is. He then considers providing long-range support to elevate their chances of suddenly. He and Yao feel the impact of someone using healing magic on them. Qing then reveals herself on the sidelines and introduces herself as Su's teammate, putting them in shock. Su had boldly told them he was planning on going solo, so seeing him with a teammate strikes a bit of jealousy within them. While she heals them further, Yin asks her to hurry up so they can join Su in the fight. Qing replies, telling him not to worry as Su is way stronger than they think. After a while of clashing with Su, Li wonders why a sword controller possesses the movement techniques of a sword prodigy. After observing Su's sword skill, Li commends him greatly, admitting that his strength exceeds his expectations. However, he declares that it's time to finally decide which of them is stronger. Hearing his name, Su remarks that he heard of Li in his past life, but never got the chance to meet him personally. He then smiles as he charges back at him to see if his sword is sharper or if Li's blade is harder. When he gets close enough, Li attempts a flying stab with one of his blades, but Su blocks it easily. Li then exposes that it was a trap, and that Su has fallen for it. According to him, the blade energy drawn by his blade's flying stab attack is enough to lock the enemy in place for another attack. He tosses his second sword at Su, but Su easily tosses his sword as well to block the attack. He then uses his sword control technique to redirect the bearing of the sword, making it charge at full speed at Li, who is now weaponless. Li manages to dodge the attack, but gets grazed in the process. He then picks up his sword and charges at Su to retaliate, but Su evades all his attacks easily, getting him more frustrated. Shortly after, Su controls his sword back while trying to spite Qing. On the other hand, completes the healing process, so Yin and Yao try to rush over to support Su. To their surprise, when they get there, they find out that he has already defeated Li. While Su turns around to leave, Li gets up and uses his last energy to attempt a deadly attack, which catches Su completely off guard. It's his strongest skill, which he's been saving for last. It encompasses a rainforest rapid blade attack, which unleashes a series of continuous slashes into the area. Seeing how the tides have turned, Yao tries to rush in to save him, but Yin stops her, telling her she'd only be throwing away her life in the process. Still, she struggles to set herself free, stating that she doesn't mind as long as she can save Su. Su then responds, telling her to listen to Yin and not get close. Chung watches in shock because he is holding on to Summing after hitting him with so many blades, but he's not dead yet. He is left wondering how this is possible, and just then, Summing asks him if he is sure that he hit him. It suddenly dawns on Chung that the voice he is hearing is not coming from the front. Suddenly, Summing's body that he is holding onto vanishes, and this is when he realizes that it was a substitute all along. Summing appears from the back, teasing Chung that he finally notices this. Summing has a coat on his body, and he makes sure to aura farm as he steps into the limelight. Summing says he is pretty sure that Chung wasn't expecting a normal sword controller like him to have such a skill. It turns out that Summing is currently donning the shadow set that he obtained after opening the treasure chest. One of the effects is called the Surge of Darkness, and this is a skill that after equipping it, all sword technique skills deal additional dark attribute damage. This damage can bypass physical defense. The set skills include the Shadow Clone, which spawns a fake shadow as a defense. If an attack is carried out when a Shadow Clone is active, it will deal an additional follow-up slash. The power of the slash is equivalent to 50% of his normal attack damage. As Summing closes in on Chung, he lets him know that he is able to do this thanks to his equipment. Chung doesn't want to believe this because he doesn't think there are collectible sets in the novice dungeon. In fact, there's only one way to do that, and this is the player completing the profession change quest. Chung panics when he realizes that this is the case, and he is also pissed that Summing did it faster than him. With no strength left to fight, Summing tells Chung that all that is left is for him to slaughter him. Summing slashes him on the chest, but just as he is about to finish him off, a bright light appears above, covering Chung. The light transports Chung from the location, and Yinze recognizes this as the life-saving ornament. Xiao is surprised to hear this, and Yinze explains that it is a tool that allows a player to exit the dungeon in emergency mode. Yinze says one of the ornaments costs hundreds of thousands, which means it is not an item that can be farmed in a dungeon. Summing then tells his teammates that the neighboring city must have spent a fortune to protect their 10-star genius. He admits that they actually went all out just to save him. By 2 p.m. that day, the lady official in the meeting makes an exclamation remark that catches Wong's attention. Wong is busy eating a cup of noodles, but he doesn't let that stop him as he asks the lady if she has managed to retrieve the real-time level rankings of the players in the dungeon. She says this is not the case, but the data feedback shows that multiple players are actually in the 9 o'clock direction between 12 o'clock and 12:30 p.m. Wong asks her what is strange about this, since it is normal for players to run into difficult monsters that would kill them. The lady then mentions that data analysis shows that they were killed by player data, not from the city's region. The moment Wong hears this, he realizes that the neighboring city is already playing tricks, and he tells her to save all the data records pretty well. Since their academy is always at the bottom of the barrel, they have become a target for bullying by other regions. Wong then asks her about the progress of the students clearing the dungeon, and she replies that it is good at that moment. She mentions that most of the teleportation zones have already been taken by the students, and the limited dungeon footage that they can retrieve in real time shows that some capable players have already organized large forces to start tackling the dungeon boss stages. Apparently, Jiang is the one currently taking the lead, and, just as expected, he is full of potential. Wong hopes that Jiang will be able to kill the boss so that glory can return to the academy. The real-time ranking data analysis soon shows up, and it reveals that Jiang is currently on level 9. He is tied with Yinzi, who is also on level 9. The second and third places are Yunxing and Jia, who are following closely. Wong is impressed by all of these, but he still asks for Summing, and he is informed that Summing isn't in the data for the top of the leaderboard. However, Wong tells the dude to look through it closely and tell him where Summing is. After a closer look, they are both left speechless to find out that Summing is still stuck on level 2. From the data they received after Summing took the first blood, his level didn't rise again. Unknown to them, Summing is currently on level 14. The moment he reaches level 14, the system unlocks a hidden set of appearances for him. At the same time, his other teammates have seen an insane increase in their levels in just 2 hours of killing monsters. Yunxing tells her teammates that they should be thankful to Summing because it is his influence that has helped them to level up fast. Jia talks about how great their squad is because they have a healer and a player with long-range abilities. Jia can also summon skeletons to provide cover, and the most important person is Summing, who is extremely strong. Summing teases them, saying it is all their strength, and he is only following their lead. Jia tells him to stop being sarcastic because if not for him, Chung would have killed them. Jia talks about how incredible Summing is, and she mentions how confident she is that they can go ahead and take down the dungeon boss if they challenge him, as it is. Summing tells Jia that she is actually right, but his target is not the ordinary boss, but the more powerful hidden boss. Fortunately, Summing just found a water ripple key, which he obtained after killing the elite spike-toothed beast. Summing mentions that to find the dungeon's hidden boss, they have to solve 3 riddles guided by the dungeon data and collect the corresponding 3 items. For the first riddle, they are told that when the silver moon hangs by the shore, the green waves part, and the red armor sleeps in the core of the cold abyss. Summing wastes no time answering this, telling the system to trigger the location Silver Moon in the sky. He mentions that there is no dungeon weather in the novice dungeon, and to find the Silver Moon, there is only one place in the dungeon where plants can grow into the shape of a moon. As they walk past the lake in front of them, They find exactly where they are going, which is the location of the hidden boss. The second riddle goes this way, saying lake water turns to mist. Using iris petals as a guide, beneath the sunken sand, the armor still keeps the old covenant. Summing reveals that from the moment he entered the dungeon, he immediately gathered the trigger items, iris flower from the monster area, to combine with the water ripple key farmed through the hint of riddle 3. As for the third riddle, it goes on to say, hold the star pattern key to reflect on the lake bottom. 9 ripples circle the bedrock. The knight pillows his head, his sword, waiting for light to break the turbid waves. Summing combines the trigger items, and the moment it starts to glow, Summing places it above the lake. His teammates are shocked to see this, and Jia asks him how he was able to solve the riddles. Before they know it, a whirlpool emerges in the middle of the lake, and a knight emerges holding a sword out. The scary knight fully emerges on horseback while answering the riddles that were solved. The team is hit with red warnings, telling them that the hidden boss has appeared, and he is known as the guardian of the lake, the Lost Knight. To engage the hidden boss, Yanzi and Jia immediately join Summing's party, with Summing being the captain. Summing urges the team to prepare for battle because the hidden boss challenge has already started. 15 minutes after this, Summing and his team are seen hiding out in the woods. It turns out that the knight wasn't what they were expecting. They ask Summing if he thinks it is okay for them to hide out like chickens like this. Summing then points their attention to the fact that the guy rides his horse so fast, and there's no way they can kill him that way. It turns out that the knight's mount speed is 500 points, which is insane. It is so overwhelming that even if the 4 add up all of their stats, it doesn't reach half the knight's stats. While the team is hiding out, the knight is taking down students he can get his hands on. Before they know it, the hidden boss has taken out 3 waves of students already, and since they're the ones who summon the boss, they believe that it is their duty to set things right. Moments later, Jia tells Summing that by following his instructions, they have used up all the mana potions of everyone in the squad and have set up the delayed trap. Summing thanks Jia for her hard work, and he tells Yanzi and Yunxing to follow the instructions they have planned ahead. It turns out that in Summing's previous life, he never challenged the hidden boss, and it is common sense that most awakened wouldn't risk choosing to summon a hidden boss in the novice dungeon shortly after awakening in life. In addition, the novice dungeon can only be challenged once in a lifetime, which is why not many people are aware of the presence of the hidden boss. Apparently, the answer to the puzzles was vaguely in record, and when Summing found it, he memorized it. However, what he didn't expect was that the hidden boss would be equipped with a mount possessing a speed of 500 points. To take down the annoying boss, they have one option, and that is to knock him off his horse. Yanzi kicks the plan into motion, and by standing on a cliff, he fires multiple hunting shots at the hidden boss. The knight blocks some of the shots, and those that hit don't even do anything to the knight because of his heavy armor. With Yanzi firing annoying shots at the knight locks onto him as the aggro target. The moment he realizes that he has gotten the boss's attention, he screams out to inform Yunxing, and Yunxing also sets off her own course of action. She sets off a fire that starts emitting a cloud of smoke in the knight's path. Basically, the plan is to have Yanzi draw the boss's attention with his long-range skills, and after this, Yunxing will create a smoke in the area the boss must pass through to block the boss's vision. This was a trick Summing learned from the goblins when he went to the Red Cave. Everything goes according to plan, and as the hidden boss finds himself in the cloud of smoke, he suddenly notices skeletons scattered around to delay his advance. The knight raises his sword to try to destroy the skeletons, but Jia activates her delaying trap to trap the knight. It turns out that this was the trap Jia had set up in advance. With the boss slowing down, Summing makes his move. He lunges toward the boss from behind, and he admits that without his teammates' help, there is no way he would have been able to solo the knight. Before the hidden boss knows what is going on, Summing has descended upon him. Summing grabs the knight and drags him off his horse. The team screams out in celebration because their plan to knock the boss off his horse was successful. However, Jia urges her friends not to let their guard down yet, because this is just the first phase. 10 minutes earlier, Jia had told Summing that even if they are able to knock the boss off the horse, it still doesn't mean they have what it takes to deal with him because they would have been exhausted already. Summing replied that they would have done enough, telling her that when that time comes, they should just leave the boss to him. With confidence, Summing had told them that he would solo the boss. Now, in the moment, Summing and the boss engage in a fierce battle. Summing takes on the boss without fear as their swords clash against each other. While the two are engaging in this intense battle, his teammates are watching in awe from behind. However, Yanzi cannot sit around, and he plans to help Summing, but Jia tells him to chill. Jia reminds them that Summing already said they should leave the fight to him, so they have to trust Summing's words because they have their own mission. As the battle intensifies, Summing activates the shadow step, giving him the advantage to deliver fast-paced attacks on the knight's body. With Summing's incredible speed, the knight appears really slow. Summing scolds the knight, saying he is actually really slow without his horse. His speed has significantly dropped from 500 to an insane 55. Summing concludes that a hidden boss is nothing special, and he continues to exert more power on the knight, aiming to kill him as fast as he can. However, everything Summing has thrown at the boss hasn't even taken a quarter of his armor. To make it worse, Summing's weapon durability has dropped to 7%. It dawns on him that his sword's durability isn't enough, and thanks to the knight's armor, he is slowly becoming a pain to deal with. He decides to pull back a bit, and while he is hiding out in the tree, Summing notices that the knight is looking around. He figures out that he is looking for his horse, and he commends him, saying he is actually smart because he knows how fast he is whenever he is on the horse. However, Summing tells him to forget about his horse because his horse has been led away by his team. It turns out that Jia and the others have taken the horse away from the location, but they are having a hard time with the stubborn horse. Nonetheless, Jia tells her teammates that they have to do everything in their power to make sure that the horse doesn't return to the She mentions that the mission was entrusted to them by Summing, and this was after he told them to leave the boss to him. He had told them that their mission is crucial, and this is for them to restrain the boss's horse no matter what it takes to make sure he doesn't mount it again. While Summing is hiding out in the tree, he returns the sword to the sheath, and when he returns to the fight, he draws, taking full advantage of the skill attached to this. However, the knight prevents Summing from coming closer by unleashing the roaring water blade skill that almost catches Summing in its range. Summing manages to jump backwards as the knight's sword shatters the ground, and Summing is surprised that the knight knows a few skills. The knight comes after him, but Summing pulls back while covering his retreat with the sword control. This forces him to engage the knight aggressively, ultimately dropping his weapon durability to 3%. Summing realizes that he has no luxury of wasting any more weapon durability. He engages his eyesight and realizes that the knight's armor is about to be breached, so he just has to hold out. The knight remains on the offensive, while Summing finds himself trying to cope with the knight's insane agility. Just then, the knight catches up to Summing and he puts everything into impaling him, but in the end, it turns out that he only killed a clone. Summing appears in the distance, talking about how the shadow skill is effective on all enemies, be it monsters or humans. Summing activates the full set while talking about how much he likes the equipment set. Summing then hurls his sword at the knight using sword control, and this time around, he is able to finally break the knight's annoying armor. Summing leaps toward the knight with joy, but at the same time his weapon's durability runs out. Surprisingly, Summing has another plan in mind. He activates the shadow sword that comes with the equipment set. With the shadow sword, he delivers a vertical cut to the knight's open body. At 3:30 p.m., Wong heads to the school's administration communication room to join his counterpart from the other. Wong expresses his surprise that the other principals have already been chatting in the communication room, for the principals claim that they have not been there for long, but it appears that Wong just came very late. They tease Wong, asking him if no student in his academy has been able to challenge the dungeon boss yet. Apparently, the dungeon clear result will start coming in one after another after 3 p.m., but since Wong's school is always at the bottom of the barrel, they mock him, saying there is no need for him to rush to the meeting to make a report. Wong then mentions that he didn't come late because of the dungeon, but because he received a real-time data report from inside the dungeon. Wong says that there are players from outside his school who have secretly entered his school's novice dungeon, but he hasn't figured out the intruder's identity just nonetheless. He is pretty sure that the intruder is from one of the 3 academies of the neighboring cities. Wong asks one of the principals, G, if he is the one because the intruder is said to be using blade skills. Wong is asking this because he heard that he has a genius at his school who is an expert in blade weapons. G replies with anger, telling Wong to stop saying trash without evidence, revealing that Chung is currently challenging the final boss of their school's novice dungeon. He boasts about Chang's talent, saying he is pretty sure he is going to clear the dungeon in half an hour. The Dongling Academy principal also uses the opportunity to boast, talking about how his academy has 3 students who are currently challenging the boss. The Nangang Academy also joins the fray, saying its students are on the verge of clearing the dungeon. When Wong hears this, he realizes that the other academies are having an easy time with the boss, so it would be better for them to race against the clock. He knows that the implication of failing this year is just 2 slots to the Sky Tower Assembly, which will be the fewest in history. Basically, from reports, the student close to clearing the dungeon is Jang, and Wong is putting all of his hope on him. In the dungeon, Jang is actually putting his best into challenging the final boss, Simba, which is a level 15 beast. Jang and his team look totally battered, but they keep going at the beast. Jiang's team suffers massive casualties, and some of them start running away because they have realized that they stand no chance against the boss. While others are running away, Jiang decides to fight the boss alone because he plans to take the dungeon's clearing reward no matter what. It turns out that Jiang is motivated by the message he got from Xiaoman telling him that Summing hurt her. Xiaoman had urged her boyfriend to get revenge for her, and Jiang is ready to put everything on the line to get the reward so he could enact vengeance on Summing. Just as he is preparing to go full rampage mode, the monster in front of him vanishes. Jiang is left in shock as he doesn't understand what just happened. The student status windows pop up, and it turns out to be a dungeon notification. The students are informed that a squad has defeated the hidden boss. The students are congratulated and are told to prepare for their return home in triumph. When Jiao and the other two see the notification, they immediately figure out that Summing was the one who successfully soloed the hidden boss. Wang is in the meeting with the others when everything turns bright, revealing that there's been a winner. Wang doesn't even see his academy winning this, so he stays quiet while the other principals are busy arguing over who might have cleared the dungeon. Everything becomes shocking when they realize that the academy that cleared the dungeon is the Xianjing Academy. When some learn of the hidden boss, they don't want to believe that a hidden boss actually exists in the dungeon. Students from the Xianjing Academy boastfully talk about how their students came together to kill the hidden boss. Most believe that it was Jiang and his team who took down the boss, but little do they know that their savior is Summing, who managed to reach level 16 in the end of it all. Summing's teammates rejoice, commending him for carrying them because they jumped 2 levels thanks to him. Summing calls his teammates together, telling them that they should distribute the rewards for killing the hidden boss before the exit portal opens. Yinza tells Summing that he is content with the level increase and isn't really interested in the rewards. Yinqing joins Yinza, saying she is good with the increase in level too. Yinza mentions how Summing has helped them so far from saving them from Cheng's blade to unlocking the secret of the hidden boss and finally taking down the boss. Yinza says he feels guilty that he didn't really do anything, so taking reward sounds somehow wrong to him. He's in the middle of his yap when Summing allocates an incredible bow to him. This is a powerful bow that he will be able to use when he reaches level 20. Yinqing also receives a heart soul necklace, which increases the soul power storage limit as well as absorption efficiency. As for Jiao, she is given a scroll, Blood Armor Undead Summoning. Apparently, after learning this skill, she will be able to summon the hidden boss Blood Armored Undead Knight. In addition, the summoned creature's attribute levels depend on the player's attribute levels. After sharing the loot, Summing lets them know that the loot dropped is linked to their respective profession rewards. He mentions that this simply means he is not the only one who acknowledges them as part of the team that successfully killed the hidden boss. Summing proudly tells them that the dungeon acknowledges them because if not for their help, the challenge would never have been completed. Just then, the dungeon congratulates the students for clearing the dungeon, revealing that the whole exercise lasted for about 8 hours. Summing lets his teammates know that time is up and it is time for them to leave. Suddenly, a portal opens behind them, and Summing explains that every time a dungeon is cleared, it enters the settlement phase. The contribution rewards for every player challenging the dungeon will then be settled into the real world after they leave the dungeon. As Summing approaches the exit, he commends his teammates for doing a good job. Moments later, the students start exiting the dungeon, and those who have lost loved ones start crying their eyes out. There's a lot of wailing among the students because the casualty rate is pretty high. Summing takes a look at the situation and realizes that everything has been revolving around the Awakened from the onset. While some are crying that they lost people, there are some who are happy that they obtained rewards, which shows that it is all about survival of the fittest. Just then, the principal shows up on the screen congratulating the survivors, telling them that this is their first challenge after awakening as they step into the world of the He says this is the final lesson the Academy can give them as graduates. Wang continues his speech saying being awakened doesn't only represent power, money, and honor. He says it also represents responsibility, love, and peace. He tells those who have lost close ones to remember the sadness and pain, while those who have obtained victory to remember the responsibility and pursuit. While the principal is giving a speech, Jiao asks Summing how he feels about everything, because a lot of students have just lost their lives. Summing then tells her something shocking, revealing that she doesn't have to worry because the dead students will be resurrected. He hasn't finished saying this when the principal tells them that to complete the lesson of the novice dungeon, all of the classmates, relatives, and lovers that they lost will be resurrected in 30 minutes. The students are shocked to hear this, and Jiao is especially stunned because she can't understand how Summing knows this fact. After everything settles down, the dungeon enters the reward settlement phase to distribute rewards. The rewards are distributed according to their contribution and a number of monsters that they killed when they were in the dungeon. Everything was going fine until it got to Summing's turn. A long list of achievements is displayed on the screen, showcasing the number of monsters that he defeated. The dungeon regards his achievement as the perfect challenge, while revealing that his final evaluation is S rank. To everyone's surprise, Summing alone contributed 91% of everything that went down in the dungeon. Later on, Summing shows up at the data room where the principal is as he opens the door. The principal addresses him as the #1 student, but Summing isn't even concentrating on all that. Bro had slept off, which is why he came late to the summons. In the final rankings, Summing came first while Yinza and Zhang are tied for second position. Third place was Yunqing, while Jiao took fourth position. Summing figures out that he has already graduated, so there is no need to keep a low profile anymore. In addition, he doesn't see any reason to modify his information because in the future, the gap between him and his classmates will be thousands of miles apart. While Summing is busy thinking about his future, the principal is holding onto his leg like his savior. Summing asks the old man how long he plans to continue holding him, but all Wang can do is thank him. Wang says he doesn't know how Summing did it, but he is glad that he was able to pull the school from the bottom of the barrel after so many years. Wang starts talking about how the other principals were left speechless after the rankings came out. Wang reveals that their academy is the first among the nearby 4 cities, and Summing is the first in all academy novice dungeons. Summing asks Wang about Cheng's ranking, and he reveals that he took 3rd place in the ranking of all academies. Wang says that from what he heard, he didn't perform optimally because he was injured. Wang then asks Summing how he was able to kill the hidden boss because even if he has a 10-star talent, he is just a sword controller, which is a weak profession in the early stages. Wang mentions that from what he knows, Summing is not from a noble family, nor does he have enough money to buy god-tier equipment, but he was able to kill a hidden boss that is above his level. Wang admits that in all of his years as a principal, he has never seen a student as strong as Summing. Wang also knows for sure that Summing didn't pull off this incredible feat because of the materials he sent to him, because these are items that can only increase his combat power a bit. Before he can continue yapping, Summing cuts in saying he was able to win thanks to his good luck. Wang is confused when he hears this, and Summing tries to make it more convincing saying he had luck and obtained many useful skills and items. Wang is surprised to hear this, and he asks if the novice dungeon has so many powerful items and treasures. Summing says yes, revealing that in addition to all of these, he was lucky to have met a group of good teammates. Summing makes sure to beat around the bush as much as he can because he obviously can't tell Wang that he was reborn. Summing says he wouldn't have been able to defeat the boss without his teammates' help. After hearing this, Wang concludes that Summing is not just an outstanding student, but also a powerful. Wang then reveals that when the other students showed up earlier to receive their rewards, Jiao wouldn't stop praising him, saying it was a blessing to have teamed up with Summing. Summing reveals that Jiao actually sent him a message that morning suggesting that they come together, but he was the one who refused because deep down he knew that Jiao would find a way to embarrass him since she is used to praising others. Summing is about to leave when the principal stops him, handing him his token of the Sky Tower Assembly. Wang says thanks to Summing's performance, the vice mayor who had originally looked down on them had no choice but to allocate more tokens from other academies to their academy. In the end, the academy was able to secure 5 token quotas that year, and they were given to Summing, Jiao, Yinza, Yunqing, and Zhang. Wang then tells Summing that he would like to explain the importance of the Sky Tower Assembly to him, but Summing says there is no need for this because he is very clear on it. Basically, the Sky Tower Assembly is a place that many newly awakened students dream of. After awakened students finish challenging the novice dungeon, which is equivalent to graduating from the academy, they step into the world of the awakened. Most students can only accept training from junior dungeons in the future, challenging upwards slowly step by step, but steadily and surely. The risk is that the improvement and the speed are slower. However, the Sky Tower Assembly qualification is different because those holding the Sky Tower Assembly token have an additional faster training channel. Although the challenges inside the tower vary, the improvement rewards obtained are abundant and fast. In Summing's previous life, he didn't get the qualification for the Sky Tower early on, which prevented him from widening the gap with most players early on. Basically, the resources obtained were not enough after being divided equally, but Summing plans to make everything different in this current life. Wang then offers his sincere congratulations to Summing, telling him that he has graduated from the academy, but he lets him know that future challenges won't be like the novice dungeon, where he can start over if he fails. He tells him that the challenges he will face in the future will give him just one chance, and this will deal with his life. Wang stretches his hand towards Summing, telling him that he hopes he can achieve great things in the future by contributing to the world. Summing smiles, and he takes the principal's hand, assuring him that he understands. Later on in the city's wealthy district, Yunqing is seen celebrating with her family over her success. Her father hugs her tightly, talking about how happy he is that she returned safely and even took third place in the academy. He believes that the helpers Lan hired came through, but Lan quickly corrects the misunderstanding. Lan reveals that Yunqing was helped by a student named Summing. Yunqing confirms this, saying the helpers her sister hired all failed, and she almost failed too, but Summing showed up and saved her. She says Summing not only saved her, but even gave her good skilled books and equipment. Yunqing lets her father know that Summing is incredibly powerful, and Lan mentions that she initially wanted to hire Summing, but they ran into a bit of a misunderstanding. Lan says she never expected that fate would bring them together in the end, and she admits that they have to find a way to properly thank Summing. Their father is surprised that the two agree on the same thing, and because of this, he concludes that it would be proper for them to find Summing to thank him. Their father then tells Lan to get Summing's contact information. He adds that he has hired the best chef to cook for them that night to celebrate Yunqing's success. Suddenly, the man gets an important call, and he initially wants to hang up until he hears the nature of the call. The man walks to a private place to talk, and this is when he learns that in the past 2 days, someone has sent assassins to murder their people. The man asks the official calling him if he knows who is behind the whole thing, and the man reveals that it is the Zhang. 2 days later, Jiao contacts Summing, telling him that it is time for them to head to the Sky Tower, and she tells him that he has to be with them. Summing agrees to this, but suggests that they go ahead, promising to come and join them. When Summing is finally ready to leave, he remembers that Wang told him that all he needed to go to the tower was the token that was given to him. He is to summon the teleportation portal to his destination, and the teleportation portal can only be entered by those who have obtained the qualification for the Sky Tower assembly. Summing follows the procedure as said, and the teleportation portal recognizes him as one of the qualified awakened. With a smile on his face, he steps into the portal, and by the time he re-emerges, is right at the 100-layer tower. Apparently, in his previous life, he was only able to come to the tower by chance. He looks around and realizes that the other challengers have been teleported to the scene, but Summing is just glad that he finally has the chance to challenge the place again. He makes his way to the entrance, and he uses the token as an identification to unlock the door. The moment he steps into the hall, he sees information on the screen telling him and the other challengers to wait for the ceremony to start in the first floor hall. Summing is left speechless because the hall is actually bigger than it was in his previous life. Summing is admiring the view when his teammates show up. Summing teases Jiao, saying she came early, but Jiao yelled at him, saying he is the one who came really late because they have been there for a long time. It turns out that they have been waiting for him to show up like forever. In addition, the trio has become somewhat friends after what they went through together. Jiao adds that it would also be better for them to look out for each other because they don't know what to expect. Suddenly, Zhang shows up from behind, throwing a punch at Summing. However, Summing gets out of the way before he is hit. Zhang's punch hits the ground, and this catches everyone's attention to the fact that someone is already causing commotion in the prestigious hall. Jiao demands to know why Zhang is acting all weird, and Zhang tells Summing that he is there to avenge what he did to his Zhang, starts to manifest his weapon to show just how serious he is. Zhang threatens to finish Summing right there, and then Summing then tells the dude that it is not the day for them to resolve their issues yet. Just then, the system in the hall detects conflict, and since fighting is not allowed in the hall, the prevention mechanism kicks into place, delivering a stunning voltage into Zhang's body. Zhang crashes to the ground, but before he passes out, he tells Summing not to think he has escaped just yet. Summing knows that it might not appear that anyone is welcoming them, but it is evident that they are being watched. Surprisingly, Chung is also in the distance observing Summing and his group. Summing then tells his teammates to follow him to the seats. Jiao asks him why they are heading to the seats when the ceremony has not even started yet. Apparently, they're supposed to read the guide for challenging the Sky Tower assembly, but Summing mentions that there is no need to queue with the lots since the secret lies in the seats. Jiao is surprised at how Summing knows this again, and she asks him if it is not his first time coming to the hall. Summing ignores her question and tells her to watch closely after sitting quietly on the seat for a period of time because the Sky Tower selection system will appear right in front of them. Just as he said, the window appears in front of Summing, welcoming him to the Sky Tower Assembly Initiation Challenge. The moment Jiao's window appears too, the other two quickly take their seats. Summing reveals that completing the 100-layer tower floor challenges is what is going to determine their ranking for entering the assembly later. Jiao is lost when she hears this, and Summing explains to her that it is basically a tower climbing competition. The higher the floor that is challenged, the higher the final grade obtained. However, if they all reach the same floor, the duration it takes them to get to the floor will be used to judge the whole thing. Jiao is surprised to hear that the time taken to climb is also a consideration in the whole thing. It immediately dawns on her that they should already be challenging the towers while the others are still lost on what to do. Summing confirms this, saying the ceremonies are just the Sky Tower Assembly's way of testing the challenger's observation and adaptability. Summing mentions that waiting for the ceremony to end before looking at the guide basically means that they are a step behind. What the assembly wants to see is the challenger's ability to observe the environment, find methods, and seize the initiative. Summing then asks the trio if they are willing to team up with him to climb the tower, just like they did in the novice dungeon. Yinqing quickly agrees to this, saying she feels safe following Summing. However, Yinza mentions that he would not be teaming up with Summing. They ask him why he is making this decision, and he reveals that in the novice dungeon, it was all thanks to Summing that they were able to rise to a high level. Basically, they relied too much on Summing's strength, but this time around he says he doesn't want to drag Summing down. In addition, he wants to rely on his own strength to train and become stronger. Jiao then agrees with him, saying they need a true trial. Jiao then suggests that the three of them team up separately from Summing just to make sure that they have a better when Yinza agrees, and Yinqing has no choice but to join them, too. Once it is settled, Summing ends up going in solo while the other three enter as a team. At the same time, Chung is still locked onto them, and he is also preparing to start the challenge because he is not done with Summing just yet. Summing is the first to head out, and he wishes his teammates good luck on the moment he arrives at the first floor. Summing is registered as Challenger 001, since he is the first to enter the 100-layer tower. Summing is confident that he knows what monster he is going to face, but suddenly a freaking chicken emerges in the distance, shocking him. Summing is left wondering why the challenge is different from his previous life. Summing easily grabs the chicken, wondering what it is that he is supposed to do with the chicken. In his previous life, when he challenged the tower, the first monster he met was a level 5 monster, a purple-furred fiend tiger. Since the challenge is totally different this time around, he wonders if the tower is mocking him for being a noob, which is why they sent a chicken his way. Suddenly, he notices that the chicken has question marks on its level section, which is quite unusual. Just when he's about to go for a quick kill, the chicken breaks free and flies off into the distance. The chicken lands on the ground, and the aura on the chicken immediately changes. Its eyes turn red, and its expression goes from a harmless chicken to Agent 47's expression. The chicken dashes towards Summing at a blinding speed, and this is when he realizes that the challenge is not as simple as he thought. Back in the hall, the challengers are finally informed that the ceremony has ended, and what is next is the challenge explanation. Suddenly, the challengers notice that there is already a leaderboard. The current first,